Afternoon, folks. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. What we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to carve ourselves a noggin. A noggin was basically a scoop or small cup of sorts that was carried on the belt. Usually had a toggle on a thong that would hang from the belt so that you could use it for scooping up water, scooping up amounts of food and things like that. And there's really no information on exactly where the term noggin came from. It was discussed in many of the old woodcraft and camping books, including books by Daniel Baird and the things that led up to and were written for the Boy Scouts of America. But they think that it originated somewhere over in Europe, obviously, and that it has something to do with being about the size of a quarter gill in measurement. This one's probably about that size, maybe just a little bit larger. But it's just a utilitarian tool that can be used for eating as well as getting a quick drink out of a stream, whatever the case may be. It was different than a kuksa. It was not as big or large as a kuksa. It was larger than a serving spoon, but it was about the same type design as a serving spoon, and some of them were just a simple scoop and some of them had a little bit longer handle. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try to replicate one out of tulip poplar and stain it with birch tar or birch oil. So stay with me and we'll get started. Really, how close you get to all these lines with your axe cuts is completely up to you and what you feel comfortable with doing with your axe. If your hacking stock has got a couple of grooves in it where you can get that material held in place really well when you're working on it, depending on what you're doing with the material, it will give you advantages of being able to carve a little bit easier without the material slipping when you're trying to carve a tedious area like this, even where if this thing were to slip around, I could catch my fingers. I can get in here and carve these areas out just by finding a good secure spot to put this where it's not going to move, and then get in there and carve that out. And then I can get closer to my lines. But again, that's really up to you what you do there. Okay, so a noggin was similar to a kuksa but smaller. Much bigger than a serving spoon with a shorter handle on it. And so I've got this thing fairly deep, and I'm going to make a fairly deep bowl in this noggin. So I have left it pretty squarish in shape right now so that I can get it into a woodland type vise or on my bowl vise. and start working on that bowl, and then I'll come back in and do all my refinements of the bowl shaping and all of that stuff after I get done with that. One thing that I'm doing here is I'm experimenting with different tools to see what's going to work the best for me. So like I said, a lot of things that I do when I'm doing this is I'm just experimenting with different tools to see what designs work the best for what, and what I've made, and see what improvements I can make on that. This last hook knife that I made right here really does the job well. So I like this design, and it's really copied kind of after a Mora. It's just got a little bit longer tail on it and a little bit deeper hook. Other than that, it's very similar to Mora's spoon carving knife in dimension and shape, but it really does a good job of getting in there and cleaning that out. Now I'm just kind of going in here for the final cleanup phase, and this tool is quickly becoming my absolute favorite. It's got a lot of versatility. And that front end hook just really cleans stuff up nice. Probably could go a little deeper right here just to get down in there. So we'll try that. Get as deep down in here as we can before we start carving it. Alright, so now that we got our bowl smoothed out pretty much what we want, we're going to go back to the axe here and start shaping this thing in before we go to the knife. Now we just want to start knocking off all the corners, basically, getting everything blended in. And somebody asked me last night, how come your shop's not a mess? How come you don't have chips all over the floor and pieces of work laying around? I try to keep my shop clean and the chips outside. But I guess if everybody likes working inside, I can work inside just as easy as the next guy. Just seems kind of crowded compared to a 20 by 40 overhang. To each his own, I suppose. we ease this transition right here, coming down on this ramp this way and this way. It'll make it easier to turn this corner with our knife. We won't have a sharp point right there that we can't carve into if we're going to try to finish this pretty much without sandpaper. So we got to ease both of those transition lines down at a gentle angle. Okay, so getting somewhere now. Stuck to the original plan here pretty much. And we're down to the chip carved piece. Profile's finished up, and now I'm trying to decide whether I want to go ahead and sand this thing or whether I want to just leave it chip carved. But we've got to drill a hole in here either way for a lanyard. Typical Noggen had a lanyard and toggle on it that one could tuck inside their belt. Very much like a Kuxa, except this was smaller. Guys, I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School in Self-Reliance Outfitters. I appreciate you joining me out here today for this quick video on how to make a noggin. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.